All right, here is an old piece of formica, and we did stone coat countertop epoxy right over the top of it. The colors are really neat what you can achieve, and in this video we left the backsplash right on the counter. We're going to show you how to match the backsplash and the front edges and just make a really neat surface over your old formica laminate countertop. Stay tuned, we'll show you the whole process right now. Hey guys, Mike here with StoneCoatCountertops.com. Today what we're going to show you is how to go over your old nasty laminate countertops and apply Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy to make them look amazing. There's some important steps to follow, but they're easy. Here we go, let's get started. First thing we're going to do whenever we start a countertop project, and we're going to go over some old existing counters, is we're going to use a cleaner. We like to use TSP, trisodium phosphate. Trisodium phosphate is a very common over-the-counter product you can get at any hardware store, and you don't need much. We're just going to spray a little bit of that right there on the surface. We're going to take a rag and just wipe that down. This will help get rid of the grease and grime that's built up over the years, and it's just a great way to start your project. You want to get it clean and free of grease, especially around the cooktop, the sink, the stove, all those areas where you get buildup. Go ahead and get those cleaned off. Okay, so now we got our TSP on there. Whenever we're cleaning, we like to follow it up with some windex. Windex does not leave a residue, and so we use windex as our final clean when we're cleaning surface. Okay, we get asked all the time, how do you do old formica and leave the backsplash intact and on? Because some people don't want to cut that off and make new backsplash. We're going to show you how to do that with this small sample. What else we're going to do is this has a bulbous edge here on the front. It protrudes up, so it doesn't let water come and run over the edge. That's common in some formica laminate jobs. So we're going to leave that intact. You could come here and sand that section off if you chose, or you can leave it intact. And we're going to show you how to leave it and just go right over the top with Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. Okay, another thing, we're going to use this particular sample in home shows, and so when we do that, we like to mask off a section of it so that people can see what it used to look like. So let's dry this off. All right, that's nice and dry. Let's mask off a little section of this. People like to see what the counter used to look like, especially when they're in a home show environment, because they can all relate to that old ugly laminate, and they know, hey, mine looks just as bad as that, and they know that you can turn theirs into something beautiful. If you're doing your own laminate countertops, it's a good idea to take some before pictures and then some after pictures. Send them to us, and we'll just say thank you so much, because people see that, oh my gosh, I can really do this in my kitchen. These people have done it, we can too. It really helps us out at StoneCoatCountertops.com. All right. So there we go. We've masked that off. We've cleaned it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a mechanical bond. We're going to etch the surface with our 60 grit sanding disc on our random orbital sander. Doesn't take a lot, you're just going to score the surface up and scratch it up. Here we go. Anything that you can't get with the sander, make sure you go in there by hand and just score it up with, a lot of times this backsplash is going to be hitting the wall, so just take it by hand and sand that off. Sand that to scratch it up. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to wipe this dust off that we may have created by sanding. Just get that dust free. All right, we got that wiped down. Now we're going to apply our bonding primer. Our bonding primer can be found at stonecoatcountertops.com. It's a great product. It bonds to anything. I'm telling you, anything with a slick, smooth surface like formica, porcelain and ceramic tile, cultured marble, solid surface, granite, all these materials that need a bonding primer to make things adhere to them. This is your answer. And you don't need much. This little 8-ounce container, it will literally do between 30 and 35 square feet just with 8 ounces. So you don't need much, thin to win on this product. What we're going to do is we're just going to add a little bit because this is a small sample. And then we're going to roll that out. Doesn't take long to roll it out. Just use a standard paint roller. We like a 1/4 inch nap roller. And we're just going to roll this on the surface nice and thin. Want to get that backsplash as well. Now this product doesn't need to look nice. What we're doing is just creating a good primer there for our products to start to stick to. Now everything that we do in the Stone Coat Countertop process is a redundant process. We believe in insurance. We don't want you to have failures down the road. So everything that we do by a mechanical bond, by sanding, is followed up with a chemical bond by applying our bonding primer. It's just a good step to ensure success, long-term success. We've all heard of these different kits that will fail over time. We don't want you having that issue. So this is why we do this process exactly this way every single time. Okay, we're all primed up. We're going to let that dry for about 30 minutes or so, and we can come back after then and do our next step. Okay, now that we have our base color on our formica top all dry, we're going to do the next step. Now it's important to remember during this step, because we're leaving the backsplash on, we want to add some color right now to the backsplash. The reason we want to do that is because we're going to keep it on, and our epoxy, our Stone Coat Countertop epoxy, will flow down. It's going to follow gravity as we try to put decorative effects into the epoxy. So this step is going to lay down some color to make the backsplash look interesting, even when it's going to have a thinner coat on the vertical edge of it. Keeping the backsplash on absolutely has its benefits to where you don't have to remove it and do the extra labor to do that, but we can still make it look fantastic. Let's show how to do that right now. So here in my hand I have a couple of different colors. I have leather brown and I have a black metallic. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to fog some color on the front edge, over this top a little bit, and on that backsplash. And it doesn't need to be anything fancy, but just add some different looks here. So we'll put a little there, put a little bit of that on that backsplash, just to give it some interest. Come down over these edges. We'll just give it some interest. And that's all we're looking for. On the surface is just fine too, but you can see that's already looking more interesting than just a solid color. And this is all undertones underneath that base, or over that base, that's going to make the counter look more realistic on the long run without having to remove that backsplash. So I'm just going to hit that corner. I'm going to come over the top and I'll hit some more color on this. Do it on top of that. There we go. And that's all I'm looking for. Now that backsplash will look more realistic after our countertop is finished because we did that step. So just keep that in mind when you're working with formica and you're going to do it over existing formica in your home on your project. Okay, we're getting our Stone Coat Countertop epoxy mixed up with equal parts A and B in our 2-gallon kit. What we're actually making is 8 ounces here for this small little top, which is plenty. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our Stone Coat base color, our Tint. This is actually designed to tint the actual epoxy, and you could adjust the variance of how much you're going to tint it. In this case, we're just going to add a tiny bit just to still see some of the undertones here, but create kind of a marbly look, because now everything that mixes with this silver is going to be in the top, and so it'll give it a marble effect. So I'll show you how that works, but we're just going to add just a little bit. This is a little bit goes a long way with this as well, and it's highly concentrated, so you don't need much. I'm just going to add just a touch there, and we'll mix that right here into our clear stone coat epoxy. Yeah, that's cool. And so that just gave it just a touch of silver in there, which is really neat. So let's go ahead and add this right to our top. We're going to use our paint stick to pull out. You want to make sure you use a drill to mix. If you haven't watched our mixing video, go watch that before you start your project. So you can see I just added a touch of silver in there, and that's what it's done for our top. Grab my trowel here. We use these trowels over and over again and keep them teeth up when they go to dry. I'm going to now just start spread. I got a little chunk in here. Okay, I'm just going to spread this out across my surface using light pressure. You don't need a lot of pressure. We're just going to get this all spread out here. All right, let's get the rest of that epoxy on here. Got a little. Okay. Now what you're going to have to do when you get to your backsplash is we're going to chop this surface with our brush, but then we're going to take our backsplash and really paint that backsplash with our brush. Okay. You got to have fun with this when you do them. These are a lot of fun. Just relax and have a good time. It's always good to make a sample before you start so that you know what you're getting into. Okay, we're going to chop this surface here.
Now, why are we chopping the surface?
We're chopping the surface to get rid of the trowel marks that are in the surface. And we use the trowel to gauge the material on the surface so that we're using the right amount of material and we're not skimping or we're not doing too much and wasting it. So I'm just going to bring some of this stone coat epoxy right up here on this backsplash. Coat that whole thing, go side to side there. Then I want to make sure I do that on the front edge too. I'm going to come around the front edge. This is going to look neat. Okay, now I'm going to have some fun with it. I'm going to take my black spray paint and I'm just going to put some in there. Okay, we're going to take some rose gold. We're going to spray that on there. Now all I'm going to do with my brush is I'm just going to brush it with that color, just the same way I just did there. And that's going to give a really neat look. Now what's cool about this is if you didn't like the striation look, you can just come back here and just chop it and marbleize it. So we're going to do some chopping through here just to hide some of those brush strokes. I'm going to go around the other side here. Now we got a really cool base there. We'll chop that out. Wow, that's pretty. Okay, now that's just with paint. That's just done with some spray paint and a little bit of our silver base color in the base. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of metallic here. I'm going to take some of our gold metallic and I'm going to mix some, spray some gold metallic on there. Test it. Okay, I'm going to do it from a little far away. Just hit that with some gold. Hit it down here with some gold on the backsplash. Wow, that's cool. Make sure my front edge is hit. Is that showing up on camera? Okay, boy, it really made a difference in real life, but the different light, it acts different. Now, when you spray metallics, sometimes it'll want to crater out, which is a cool look, but you don't have to have it do that. You can come back through here and just chop it again, and just chop some of that gold right into the surface, so it's just not right on top, and that's a neat way to do it too. Those metallics just give it a really realistic look. And I'm going to leave the backsplash ones alone. I want to leave those on there. Wow. Now, what I want is I want a little bit of a granified look. So I'm going to put some black on here, some black spray paint. Then I'm going to hit it with some alcohol and metallic mix, and it'll give me a neat effect. So let's do that. Let's do that right here and keep this area dark on this side. So I'm just going to put some black on there, get the edges, and then I'll take some more of this gold, and I'm just going to hit that black. And you see what that does? Can you zoom in on that to show them? That's really neat. So I like this piece just like this. I mean, this is a real simple piece, and this is over formica, and that's just how cool you can make it. I think I'm going to lay just another color over. Let's get some copper on that, just right through here, just to keep it interesting. There we go. So I just left this side really metallic-y, and I kind of left that side alone, and that'll look neat. Let's let's call that good. I'll let that dry, and I'll come back here. Actually, I'm gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then I'll torch it. I'm gonna let that alcohol go away a little bit. You can see right here. Can you zoom in on this? So you're going to get some craters because the alcohol acts funny with the material. So all I got to do is just touch that, break the surface tension, and then those will go away. Very cool. Now I like this black, so I think I'm going to hit a little bit more black on top of this area and then hit it with some alcohol, just because I like that fracturing effect. So let's do that. Now I'm just going to hit it with some alcohol, and it'll do it for me again. This time I just hit copper instead of gold. So there's another look, and then I could even spray on top of that again and hit it. Let's hit it again with some gold. You can see the colors that you lay on and lay on and lay on. When you keep layering color, it looks more and more realistic. Looks more realistic. Sometimes the hardest part is just knowing when to stop. Yeah, this is going to look neat. So we'll leave that alone, and we'll torch it here in a minute. And I like mixing the spray paints and the metallics and alcohol and just looking at the effects. Man, this is really tempting just to keep doing it over here, but I don't want to make it too fancy because our backsplash, it can't mimic that. So I leave some of that alone so that this is still really interesting, but then the backsplash matches, the front edge match, but you still have this really interesting thing going on. So that's what we're doing here. Now I could go through here and just kind of touch these spots that are starting to separate because of the alcohol. Just touch them a little bit. And it'll break the surface tension on those, and it won't become like a void. Make sure your edges are all done. Well, that looks good. Wouldn't know that's a piece of formica under there. Now, we put a lot of color right on top of this, and so we're going to come back, and tomorrow we'll do a clear coat on top of this so that it will cover all the color and stuff, so it'll protect our piece. All right. Wow. Let's light it up with a torch and see what happens. It may catch on fire, and that's okay, just blow it out, but you wait this long, it's most likely it's so I'm just breaking some surface tension here where some of those voids are happening. And the color will move back in there. But this first coat, it's going to be bumpy and different and stuff like that. That's totally normal. The second coat is just clear, and you don't add alcohol, you don't add these effects, and it lays out really flat for you. So what I do at this point is I'm just looking for things that stand out to me that I don't quite like, and I'll just move color and move the piece a little bit. If it's round and I think it looks fake, I'll just kind of make it into more of an oblong shape or something. That looks more natural, looks like crystals in there instead of round dots. That's what I just did with the paint stick. So if you want to zoom in, I'll move this color here that's floating on top. I'm going to do it right here. And that starts to separate it. If you don't like it, you can kind of move it back together. You can see that just really thins it out on top. It'll move for you, and then that color is going to do different things. If you had a vein going through here, you could really move that vein. I like this piece. This is really cool. And how that black granified because of the alcohol intermixing with it on top of the surface. That's a really neat look. All right. So we'll come back again tomorrow and we'll clear coat this. Let this dry overnight, and then we'll do it tomorrow to finish it. I'm going to have to pull this tape here before this dries, or else it'll lock that tape in. So I'll pull it here in about 3 hours. Do you have any questions?
Pretty.
All right, cool. All right, we've let our formica sample dry overnight. It's still a little bit tacky, so you don't need to sand in between coats if it's still a little tacky. It'll typically take about 12 hours to be tack-free at 65 to 75 degrees, between 8 and 12 hours there. But we do have a little nub sticking up right here that I'm just going to take my 220 grit sanding block and just quickly go over, and now that's all I need to do. There was just a nub there, and that knocks it down, and now I'm ready for my clear coat. The reason we do a clear coat is because when we add all that color and those effects, sometimes you'll get difference with the paint or voids because of difference in the paint hitting the epoxy and things like that. Now our clear coat just levels everything out. So we're going to take some of our clear coat here, we're going to pour it on the surface, and we're going to do just what we did in the last coat. We're going to trowel it out and then chop it, and then we'll torch it. We just won't add color to this coat. And I trowel everything out close to the edges, and then I'll push it over the edge when I'm ready. Again, we're going to brush it on our backsplash, and our backsplash did a really good job matching our piece. Now, I want you also to note that because this is that no drip edge on our formica and we did not remove it, some of the color kind of dissipates back into the piece, and that's okay. That actually looks really cool. But just note that when you're going to do a piece like this, that the color will move on you because it wants to find level. So you can see that it kind of moved, but because we kept our color light over here, it all kind of gathered in here and left our backsplash looking even and stuff like that. So it looks very natural. I like the way this one came out. Okay, so I'm going to take my brush and just chop that piece to hide any of those lines from my trowel. And all these steps we've done here in this video showing how to go over old laminate countertops and leaving the backsplash on, all of these steps are done on a large piece, in just a larger scale. We like making samples for our home shows and showing exactly what this product is capable of doing over old surfaces. It really wows our customers and opens their mind and their possibilities of not having to spend a fortune on brand new counters. They can go over their existing counters when they're on a tight budget, and it really opens their world to some really neat looks, and they don't have to sacrifice design and their taste just because of budget. Okay, so we got this all chopped out, we got it troweled. Now I'm just going to torch these bubbles out and we'll be already done with our clear coat. You don't want to hold the torch in one place very long. Okay, this is a great little example here. I have a void right here where the clear is not going. Can you see that on camera right here? Mm-hmm. So all I'm going to do is just take my finger and touch those. Because there's surface tension in that material, it didn't want to go right there. And now I'm just going to torch that, and that'll blend right in. It'll level right there. And make sure, especially on this coat, when you have this dry, you don't want to have it in a dusty environment with a bunch of dust floating in the air, because it'll land in the surface and create little dimples. And you don't want to have air blowing in the room. You don't want a bunch of air movement. You want it kind of dead air and nice and warm. So pre-warm your area and don't have a bunch of dust floating around, and this will level out really pretty for you. That's how you do old formica countertops with stone coat countertops, and you just make it look amazing. So hope you enjoyed this video, and that's how it can come out.